The roughly 6 years of World War II are perhaps the most focused upon in our history in terms of coverage by various forms of media, whether it be in literature, film, video games, and even internet content. Despite this, the narrative is often restricted to the roles of the main belligerent nations, such as the United Kingdom, Germany, USSR, or the United States. Because of this, the nature of World War II as a global conflict is sometimes left unexplored. In this new series, World War II by Country, I hope to explore the forgotten roles many of these nations played in the conflict. But first, some ground rules for moving forward. Rule 1. Nations will be discussed in alphabetical order, with each video discussing the nations of 1 or 2 letters. The main belligerents will not be discussed. This includes the UK, France, China, the USSR, and the US, as well as Japan, Italy, and Germany. However, the various territories that were a part of these countries will be discussed. So for an example, in the future U Nations video, the UK will not be discussed, but British Uganda will be. So with that out of the way, let's begin with our first nation, Afghanistan. Afghanistan was ruled by King Mohammad Zahir Shah. However, not interested nor competent in rule, Zahir Shah ceded most of his political power to his paternal uncle, Mohammad Hashim Khan, the prime minister. Under Hashim Khan, Afghanistan made significant strides in diplomacy and world relations, joining the League of Nations in 1934. This same year, the nation received recognition from the United States. However, relations were not perfect with Western democracies, as it had a history of tension with the United Kingdom and British Raj to its south. By the outbreak of war, Afghanistan had secured good diplomatic and economic relations with the Axis powers. While remaining officially neutral, diplomats to Germany discussed the potential of acquisition of British Indian land, more specifically of the Pashtun region between the Durand Line and the Indus River. Our second country is Albania. In April of 1939, months before war broke out in Europe, a force of roughly 110,000 Italian soldiers and colonists settled in Albania in the hopes of integrating it into the wider Italian Empire. This increased the support for the Albanian Fascist Party, which was popular with the Albanian people for its annexation of Kosovo and other Albanian populated regions of Yugoslavia following the Axis invasion of the nation in 1941. However, many Albanians disliked Italian domination, and under the leadership of the Albanian Communist Party, several partisan groups organized into the Albanian National Anti-Fascist Front in September of 1941. In September of 1943, Germany occupied Albania's capital, Tirana, and recognized a neutral government and military. By winter of 1944, the Albanian partisans had completely liberated the region, including parts of Greece and Kosovo, from German occupation. 3. Algeria. Algeria is part of the French Third Republic, and following France's surrender to Germany in May of 1940, the region was jointly controlled by Germany and its puppet, Vichy France. Despite being in northern Africa, Algeria was considered a part of metropolitan France, and thus it was not a part of its colonial empire. In November of 1940, Operation Torch liberated Morocco and Algeria as Allied troops from the US, UK, the Raj, and Free France battled a force of roughly 60,000 Vichy troops made up of both Muslims and French Algerians and Moroccans. Many Algerians, descendants of both French colonists and Algerian natives, fought for the Allies in the French Expeditionary Force during the invasion of Italy and liberation of southern France. Andorra. Perhaps in the strangest fashion so far, Andorra was technically at war with Germany before any of the Allies, as they had not been invited to the Versailles Treaty and never made peace with Germany after World War I. In fact, Andorra was still at war with Germany until 1958, meaning it was technically at war with the nations of both NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Antigua and Barbuda. Then a part of the larger British Caribbean, the island's foremost role was in the Anglo-American Bases for Destroyers deal in 1940, in which 50 American destroyers were lent to the British in return for 11 naval and air bases on the islands of Antigua and Barbuda, as well as the Bahamas, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, Bermuda, Guyana, and Newfoundland. Argentina. Argentina was ruled by a left-wing coalition of Democrats and Socialists dubbed La Concordancia, and under the rule of La Concordancia, the Argentine government harbored sympathies for the United Kingdom, but did not enter the war. In 1943, the government was overthrown by the military, which later became infamous for its Nazi sympathies. During the war, the Argentinians profited by exporting goods, predominantly foodstuffs, to both sides of the conflict. Despite remaining neutral, more than 750 Argentine pilots volunteered for the Royal Air Force, as well as the South African and Canadian Air Forces. Along with this, 4,000 Argentine volunteers fought for the Allies. Yielding to international pressure, Argentina declared war on the Axis powers 1 month before the end of the war in Europe. Armenia. Then the Armenian SSR. The country saw relatively low destruction compared to the rest of the USSR. The region supplied the Soviet war effort with agricultural and industrial resources. Roughly 400,000 Armenians served in the Soviet military, of which only 200,000 returned home. 60 Armenians received the rank of general during the war, with 4 receiving the rank Marshal of the Soviet Union. Australia. A member of the Commonwealth, Australia was one of the first nations to declare war on Germany following its invasion of Poland in September of 1939. More than 1 million Australians served in the military, a significant portion of its 7 million strong citizenry. The Australian military, specifically the Army and the Royal Australian Air Force, engaged the Germans in North Africa and Europe. Darwin, in the Australian North, was bombed by the Japanese Empire, and the Australian possessions in modern-day Papua New Guinea saw combat between Japanese and Australian American forces. As the liberation of North Africa proved successful, the Australian military shifted its focus to the South Pacific. Austria. Austria was annexed into Germany in the 1938 Anschluss. Around 1.2 million Austrians served in the German military throughout the war, with one man serving as Führer. Upon the Allied victory, Austria was occupied in 4 different zones, with Vienna split in 4 by the victorious Allied nations as well, mirroring the post-war situation in Germany. However, unlike its northern neighbor, Austria was completely unified on the condition that it remained neutral in the Cold War. For our final country today, Azerbaijan. Then the Azerbaijani SSR. Azerbaijan provided significant support to the Soviet war effort through its petroleum. 800,000 Azerbaijanis fought in the Soviet military, with only half returning home. The oil fields of the region were targeted by the Germans in the 1942 Operation Edelweiss, but the Wehrmacht was pushed back at Stalingrad. Interestingly, some Azerbaijanis defected the German side during the war. That's going to do it for the countries today. Join us next week for the second edition of World War II by country, where we explore the countries beginning with B.
Reach.
What's up, bank account, bitch? Running with the sauce in the kitchen, ooh. Running with the sauce, I'ma whip it, yeah. Running with the sauce, I'ma flip it, ooh. Ball at the 89 Pistons, yeah. Running with the sauce, yeah, I'm a boss. Got too much and the kid get lost. I ain't really tripping, but y'all slipping. I ball like Jordan and I ball like Pippen. Running with the sauce in the kitchen, ooh. Running with the sauce, I'ma whip it, damn. Running with the sauce, I'ma flip it, ooh. Ball like the 89 Pistons, damn. Running with the sauce, yeah, I'm a boss. Got too much and the kid get lost. I ain't really tripping, but y'all slipping. I ball